are going to discuss soft skills, relevant soft skills for lawyers and legal professionals. I mean, why? First of all, I just make a very short walk through why this session, where is that coming from, and why it is relevant indeed. I personally, as I started to work as legal intern after my studies, first of all, I was like rejected by over 120 law firms. And today I feel like Jack Ma because I think I have even more rejections than him. Sometimes he used it as a joke when he's interviewed us. He says, I had like over 118 rejections. And I say, yeah, I had more than Jack Ma. You know, today I'm laughing about it, but back then it wasn't funny. And afterwards, I mean, later on, I of course found out what the reasons were. You know, gender, age, main nationality, heritage, ooh, they were like all together. And you know, law is my second studies, so it has been my second career. So I had my first career in mathematics and statistics, and then I used to work as a top diplomatic real estate agent as I was still living in Tehran, Iran, and then worked a couple of years as private banking consultant for the second largest German bank in Iran, Commerzbank. And also I've been a professional sprinter, so I had like my career also as athlete and sport instructors, etc. And then moved to Switzerland and started law. So at that time I was like 10 years older than the first grade university students. And just the background started like this, why this crisis and why I went into business and all of those things like aggregated together, the backgrounds, the rejections, the, you know, being like a second-hand society. But afterwards I had a German teacher in the German language school as I was in Zurich, and she was calling me in German, Avin, you're not just a foreigner, you are, du bist Qualitätsausländerin. So you're a quality foreigner. I mean, at that time, I was laughing at what she was saying, but then I realized what kind of like cognitive biases have been ingrained in people's brain, regardless of age and background, etc., so that you, as someone from another country, have to prove yourself until you get maybe the same opportunities and chances like a underqualified local person. And I remember in most of those rejections, etc., it was like, oh, you're overqualified. And I was like telling to myself, couldn't we let that be my problem? Let me get that, I didn't want to mention it, internship. And then afterwards, you can let me know if I'm over or underqualified. So all of those things came together, and eventually, yes, I got those internships, and I did them like with top law firms also in Zurich. And also, I had the opportunity afterwards to work as anti-bribery and corruption compliance officer for the second Swiss largest bank, Credit Suisse in Zurich, for almost 3 years. But there was a time I remember that we had those discussions and team meetings that I felt like even such a large corporation is too small for me to move my wings. I had ideas, and I got a lot of like interim certifications or feedbacks from the team leaders saying, oh, we appreciate your entrepreneurial approach. And actually that was very negative because it was going back to the creativity. And we're going to talk about these kind of things as well, that in the corporations, these are not highly welcomed because they want you to act within frameworks, structures, line manager, reporting lines, up and down, and that is how you function. And there was a time that I felt like I'm done. And I remember in that very last line manager meeting that I had, I just put my resignation letter on the desk, and she was like almost crying because she said, oh, if we lose you, then we need to replace you with 10 people. I said, I know, because I've been bringing too much in, and I've been a very cheap employee here for you, actually. But now you need to replace me with a few local people. But she just told me, you know, but something that I have always noticed with you and your character, Arvin, you have a problem with authorities. I remember that day back home, it was January 13th, in a snowy day, and I was very upset. I was happy that I resigned, but I was thinking, what did she tell me? This was not a nice comment. But a couple of months afterwards, as I started launching my own business and becoming an entrepreneur, a first-generation entrepreneur in my whole, let's say, family and tribe, I was thinking, that woman was so right. That was one of my main problems. I could not deal with authorities who were not as qualified as myself. That is the actually important point, because I have no problem to learn from people or even to follow people and work for people who know something more than me, who can teach me something, who can also give me the freedom to act. But then I realized, yes, I have a problem with authorities, and I remember those comments by them that, oh, that is your entrepreneurial approach, and suddenly it became reality. And that's why we thought today, I personally have been thinking about these things for so many years, and after also launching my own business, I was approached by so many other lawyers, law students, legal professionals. How did you do it? We want to do it as well. Or how come that you became like a global brand in 1 year, 2 years? How is that we see you now on international stages? What do you do actually? Aren't you a lawyer? Say, yeah, but it doesn't mean that I'm not an educator. It doesn't mean that I cannot be the voice of my industry as well. And it doesn't mean that I should not leverage my other skills as well. And that brought me also to WLF and initiating the topic of why not always, we don't need to always talk about the legal provisions with each other. Everybody here is definitely a qualified lawyer, and we know the laws that we have been taught in the law school, but there are stuff that we were not taught in law school, such as business acumen, personal branding, marketing, financial acumen, leadership, client acquisition, client retention, client conversion, cash management, credibility building, relationship building, strategic networking. You know, the list can go on and on. Public speaking, presentation, impact and influence, business deal facilitation, partnership closing, settlements, negotiations. Again, the list goes on and on. And then I thought, let us bring this topic. So the first time I initiated, and we also performed a very successful session, it was 2020, January, in Dubai. And then we saw that the feedback from the audience and other participants was amazing. And back then I represented the session and moderated, and I spoke as well. And my main focus was at that time strategic negotiations. Because I always believed that now we special lawyers, business lawyers, commercial lawyers, those who are also doing arbitrations, dispute resolution, etc., or court settlements, for example, that the moment that the parties, they are about to close a deal or close a settlement, they exclude the lawyers. And they tell them, let us send the lawyers out because they're going to dig into those contracts again and kill the deal. So lawyers, unfortunately, worldwide in the business, commercial, and trade world, they are labeled as deal killers. And for me, it was like, let me teach lawyers how you can switch or how you can grow from deal killers to deal sealers, so that you can facilitate actually the partnerships, the deals, and the settlements of your clients and also the counterparty. So with this being said, I'm also very happy in the third time that we have this session in the WLF to be accompanied by two brilliant, awesome people. One of them, I can kindly make a short background introduction of Dima Alexandrova. We met for the first time in February 2013 in Paris, in International Chamber of Commerce, an ICC mediation competition. And at that time, I think you were still a student, right? She was in one of the competing teams, and I was a supervisor for the competitions to see if everything is going ethically and if coaches are doing their job well, if the scoring is running well. and so on and so forth. And I met a lot of international awesome teams there as well. And I was very happy that mediation is being given now a very powerful and relevant meaning also in the legal industry. Because in the past, people were saying, no, you're a lawyer, you want to settle and go to court. But nowadays, since maybe the past decade especially, also the claimants, defendants, and also the legal professionals, they really discovered the power of ADR, alternative dispute resolution, settlements out of court. And that is where I met her. And in the meantime, she has grown to become a wonderful, powerful mediator herself and having her own clientele and consulting people. And as the second warrior soft skills speaker today, we have Hamish. I was thinking of where would this guy may come from? I was really like having brainstorming with myself. How should I really, what should I expect to see today? Eastern European, Indian, Cambodia, Southern American, and whatever you can imagine, I was thinking of, you guys come closer. I mean, come on, it's a private party, come here. And my neck is breaking always to come to us. Come to Liat, or to Joseph, to the best man and the woman of the conference. Yeah, let's get closer. This is like our last private session, and we're gonna do it for 2 hours. No. No, I knew I scared her. No. So actually just, okay, of course that was now not a joke about also this encounter that as he approached me like before lunch, I just thought, what is this guy? Who is this? What does he want? And he also, of course, mixed me up with somebody from the team, with Shruti. I said, I know her, but that's not me. So yeah, now I'm very delighted also to have you, and I know that your name has Scottish root, you said. So it's a small panel, but it's very diverse, as you may see. Me, myself, a double national, Iranian and Swiss, Bulgaria, Scotland. Let's crack.
That's right.
So actually my first question, or let's say, why don't we start with something, maybe with the alternative dispute resolution. That is actually one of the most relevant soft skills for lawyers, even if they do not have their own business, even if they do not run their own law firms and they're working for another company or corporations or law firms, and they work as, let's say, the counsel for dispute settlement and specifically mediation. Why is it relevant, and how come you chose that path, and what are you experiencing while you have polished these skills after law school, I can imagine?
First of all, I'd like to ask the audience out of curiosity, do you have some training at your law schools in negotiation or mediation, just by raising your hand? Okay.
Oh, what is your law school? I'm curious. Where did you graduate?
I went to both the University of Law in Manchester and the BPP in Manchester, and in the second one on the bar course, we did do an ADR module, and within that we did a bit of negotiating and mediating.
Okay, good.
Give me a second. Run. Go ahead.
This is a good session.
The answer, the brief answer is no, not in university, but from life I've learned negotiations. However, after graduating, I did accreditation in mediation, in particular in CEDAR, Center for Effective Dispute Resolutions in London. And it was amazing. It was really cool. And I'm also part of, like I registered in the panel. And yeah, particularly mediation.
But not in the law school, so
Yeah.
I think...
Not in university, sorry. So the answer is no.
Also ourselves,
Yeah.
not. Yeah, maybe...
The question was direct to you because usually at law schools we tend to neglect these courses where there is no single legal black letter. And I'm fighting against this in Bulgaria. I fought against this in London, by the way, as well. I won't mention the name of the institution, but it happened that there was just, as lawyers, we tend to, I think we underestimate all these soft skills and we think that they're innate for us, but actually we can master quite some of them within these types of trainings. And back to your question, Awin, I believe that studying ADR is not only about conducting real-life mediations, it's about mastering skill set that helps you in everyday life. And the negotiation and mediation skills are something which really is a competitive advantage of a lawyer, in my opinion, compared to all the automatization that is going on. You just delivered some speeches about it. So I believe that in the future, our work as lawyers will be more soft skills based than really doing technical legal work. Maybe you would concur with me on this. And I was always asking the mediation questions in the previous panels. I was wondering whether people do mediation in their jurisdictions. It seems that it's a bit undeveloped in quite some jurisdictions. In others, usually common law jurisdictions, it's pretty well developed. Though I think that we can always go for it, at least give it a try, and then go to litigation.
But you know, Dima, I think I'm very happy that you brought up that question, that who here in the room had learned those skills in law school, and we saw, and I'm sure even if we had like 200 people in the room, maybe 10 hands would go up, maybe even less, because even in the top-ranked law schools in the world, you do not really you have it always as self-education, or after graduation, post-graduation. You go on a, let's say, Harvard negotiation program, then you go on, I don't know, King's College, 1 year LLM, and you need to pay, and you need to pay not only money, but also time. I mean, I personally have invested like a fortune in like self-education to acquire those kind of skills, including, of course, business acumen and negotiation skills as well for business and in the legal practice. But actually, that's not how it should be. So what you're fighting for in Romania, I've been also fighting this fight for the past couple of years in multiple countries, in different countries, in Middle East, in Europe, in the States as well, to add more value also in the law schools and bring those credits and also those, let's say, lectures and lecturers to those law school, and that's why I've created, in the meantime, a course for lawyers myself. Like, it's called What You Don't Learn in Law School. And it somehow includes all of these things, and there are parts that I do myself because I allow myself to do it because I learned them and I run them also in the business with testimonials and with results, with proven results. And there are parts that I bring other experts in. For example, maybe I'm already thinking of you for some of the courses. So that person can also focus on something like digital marketing, for example. As you were talking about logos and IPs, etc., and that's a big, big relevant part of branding, for example. It's always important, you know. It is not, look at her. Now Nikita is coming. And I will bring you for photography course, soft skill, most relevant soft skill posing for lawyers. And that's also very important. We're laughing about it, but these things are important. How you come across is how people perceive you and how you will be accepted, you know. First people see you, and then they come and talk to you, and they know about what you have in your brain or in your heart. First is the visibility. I'm very sorry. We all judge the books by their cover.
Also,
Microphone is beside you.
We talked in this conference about robots and AI and a lawyer robot. This is the one thing they can't take away from us. The way we come through and the way people see us, that's something that no robot can do.
Correct. These are the things that is only human skill, you know. So Ayman and Co, you come closer, and then you are allowed to ask whatever question you want. Come closer. It's a private party. It's I think the coolest session ever.
As you said about the negotiation, in my opinion, or the negotiation skills is a skill, naturally skills. Even if I teach you, if you don't have that hope, you will not be succeed in this area. Like singing or like art. If you don't have that hope, you will not be a good artist or a good singer.
I would say, Ayman, it's both. I mean, there are people, for example, everybody tell me you're a born speaker or you're a born leader, but there were parts that I had to polish the skill by education and learning as well. There are parts that you can definitely learn to allocate those skills. You know, maybe somebody's born with a good voice, but if they don't train it, then
That's
it
right.
goes.
Yeah.
So it means, I think it's a combination of both, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah, at least you have the base. Since you have the base and I train you, you will be the more professional.
But next time I will take you more serious when you come with your Arabic clothes. He didn't listen to me since 2 days.
Do you want me
I'm
to
telling-
go home?
Go
the room?
and come. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm very easy. Hamish,
Yeah, I was
marketing, business. Yeah, go ahead.
I
Tell
was-
us a little bit first about yourself, because I just told a little bit about your name and how I mixed you up with another person. But I think you may need the mic because of the recording.
I have a very large, booming voice.
It's because
so
of
if you can't-
it's because of the
After the
video
video.
recording. Unfortunately, we all have to. So let's let us
So
tell people.
just to give you an idea, I've been the chief executive of a big barrister set and a law firm in England and a business advisor to in-house legal departments and law firms on their training and development, their learning, what are the things that they like to have. And it is unquestionably true that the skill set that we're talking about here is about changing behaviors, personality traits. It's actually about aligning a skill set to the business need of growing clients, doing mediation, negotiation skills, whatever is required. So the Anglo-Saxon British version of this is a modular-based system. You become a partner, you have to have done 22 modules. You become an associate, you have to have done 16 modules, and this is what it looks like. So that sort of very structured approach does have different formats to it. But I would have said that the interesting development in this area that I would see for you is I work a lot now with a big financial institutions, legal department, and the in-house counsel in the UK, about 350 general counsel, have got involved in a thing called the O-shaped lawyer. O. No, T is one and O is the other. So an O-shaped lawyer, you should look it
You
up.
tell us about the T-shape afterwards.
So O-shaped lawyers, general counsel have said, we need to see more O-shaped lawyer. And an O-shaped lawyer is somebody who's got rounded, understandably, because it's an O, have got rounded skill sets. And particularly what they're interested in from general counsel is commerciality, business skills. Can you read a balance sheet? Do you understand their litigation problems? Do you understand the business dynamic here? If you had to write a set of critical business issues from seeing an annual report and accounts, what would you write? How would you understand this business? So lots of law firms who have an English parentage are looking in that area. The O-shaped lawyer, the T-shaped lawyer, by the way, for those of you who are the uninitiated, a T-shaped lawyer has got one specialist area of practice, let's say it's commercial litigation, and they carry that one area, but they also have a set of business skills. They're commercially aware, they do these other things, and that's the T, that's the top of the I. And you have an I-shaped lawyer that only knows one thing, which is commercial litigation, is what I do, I.
To be found numerously in Switzerland.
Yeah, we have lots of those, as we all know. And you'll know them in your own practice. So the other one to look out for, which is a new set of thinking in America, is called the Delta lawyer. Delta lawyers are like a zooped up O-shaped lawyer. So what they're saying in Delta, this is a big, I think it's Stanford-based research program. And essentially what they're saying is, Delta says, well, you need to be personally effective. Too many of these other things say, well, Hamish has been on these 5 courses, and he therefore should be all of quality, have competencies across all of these areas, but he doesn't. Delta is looking very directly at effectiveness and outcomes. So the stuff I've seen, it's just to give an advert of it, is that training and interventions like it are looking at what you do afterwards. So we would advise a lawyer, this is how you grow your business and grow your client base, and this is what you do. But you have interventions after the course. So you generally have WhatsApp group coaching afterwards. So I would have been saying to you, if you're thinking of developing some of these skills, you need to be thinking about who and how does this get checked afterwards, and how much follow-up is there? Because lawyers are, well, we all are. I was a trained lawyer initially. We are all very good at doing your sort of special thing, and then something distracts you from doing your business development or your negotiation or your whatever, and you get back to doing more work. So that follow-up, somebody in the business or a third party, an independent, needs to be following up with people on whether they're actually using those skills. So
You know,
that's my cup and sweat.
awesome point actually to maybe have a little bit of also exchange and interaction, that I add something and then maybe we get 2-3 comments or questions from our friends as well. I have learned it also from one of my business coaches who's like ranked as 3 top in the world, and he always said, especially for lawyers and doctors and financial advisors, I mean, these are like 3 areas that you have with relevant, significant assets of human being, you know, their health, their money, and their rights. He always said that is what they're lacking mostly, is follow-up and follow-through, you know, because human beings are proven to be, they have all short-term memory. That's normal. Doesn't matter how smart you are, but the most relevant things, the day after, no matter how awesome a conference or a session or a lecture for you was, if you do not take notes or if you don't repeat it or if you don't follow up and follow through afterwards, the next day you may remember maximum 30% of the content. And the same applies for the human connections. When you make those connections, that's why yesterday or the past 2 days when people asking me for business card, I said it wouldn't help you anyway, because you'll forget me tomorrow unless you will leave that impression, you know, that last impression and that first impression that can be the last one. Because business cards are proven to be like the greatest waste in the world, especially the past couple of years. Until 2020, there were these statistics of 800 million business cards yearly lands in the garbage can. What kind of damage are we doing to the environment while no business is actually coming out of them? They're called business cards, but they're rather ego cards. I'm sorry, I mean, most of us are still using it, but that's not because you definitely didn't know these things. That's normal, because everybody thinks you should have a business card, otherwise you're not professionals. But I know people who are doing multi-million business deals or transactions, they don't even have a website or a business card or so. It is that human relational capital, how you convert and how you retain and how you also maintain those clientele. That is the follow-up and the follow-through. How many people have reached out maybe to your firm by means of referrals, because mostly in these 3 areas of business that I said, financial, medical, and legal, referral is a huge relevance. Because normally people do not go to a lawyer just by a website or a doctor by a website. We all ask each other, hairdressers as well, of course, makeup artists, referral. You ask all these people, do you know a good diverse lawyer? Do you know a good financial advisor? Do you know a good tax advisor? Do you know a good dentist? It's still very human-based. And that's why also in the legal industry, because now we are amongst each other, we do not really have to forget the relevance of the relational capital and the follow-up and the follow-through. So now if maybe somebody has a comment or question, maybe just for the sake of interaction, because I think this is going to turn out to be the best session of this conference afterwards. We are so close and so friendly, and that's so nice. And I could convince Ayman and the team to come close.
Maybe one remark
Please.
here. I mean, you asked a question, who had training in ADR at law school? I don't think we should put this in law school, in the curriculum. I think it should be after you've gone through law school. Law school is for the technicalities. You need to learn to be a lawyer, and then you also need to learn the law. And it's already something that you go outside your own jurisdiction, you learn something about another jurisdiction. But the core business is learn a trade, like a carpenter, you know, you learn a trade. But what you're saying, ADR, all these other skills, very, very important, because without them, you don't make a penny, right? I mean, that's the referral part of it. I have selected judges for 8 years in this country, and we found that when an applicant to become a judge did not have, say, his feet made dirty in society, he would be worthless as a judge, and he would not pass the test, no matter how good a lawyer he was. So all these skills, I think you need to learn either outside in a fraternity or a sorority or in church or a political party or something else. But those are the skills that work in interhuman relations. And I don't think law school really has a role to play. This is you, yourself, going into asking your boss to follow a course, go to conferences and talk to people and see how your skills work. But it's, for me, it's not something that should be in the curriculum for law school.
That is, of course, also a valid point. However, what I want to maybe add to it, because we do not have to now agree on all the points with each other. This is a panel and a friendly, let's say, audience panel as well for just interaction and share our expertise and experience of what works and what won't. I personally, I do not also agree that we need to go to a lot of details and have professional sessions about them in law schools. But normally, if, for example, during the law schools, you navigate the people towards the direction, or at least give them a kind of general education, general level of education, and then if somebody realizes, oh, this is going to be my area, then they can go on afterwards, do postgraduates, or then self-education and invest, and of course, otherwise there will be no market also for other trainers after the graduation. And actually, this is not just a law school problem. I mean, even if you study, I don't know, chemistry or mechanical engineering or telecom or medicine, you don't know what to do afterwards. And that's a global, I think, lack of a kind of gap in the education industry as such. But now we're trying to, as we are all in the legal industry, we are now trying to focus on the legal aspects of it and how we can do it better.
I think this should be in the kindergarten.
Talking from my heart. Yeah.
And I have to tell you,
talent navigation.
I have to tell you, I have a 7-year-old, and I'm teaching him that. And my daughter is a 14-year-old, and I have a 12-year-old. They're teaching it in school. And they have like case laws. One is a judge and one is a lawyer, and they're teaching them how to claim, how to stand in front of an audience, how to talk very clearly, very logically. And this is something that has to be in every school, because when they're in law school, it's a bit late, I think, for most people.
I think that's exceptionally accurate and sensitive to the subject. In Britain, there has been an attempt to introduce emotional intelligence training and this O-shaped lawyer thing, which I can't commend to you enough. They say death to soft skills. And the two skills that you have are hard skills, technical learning, everything you ever want to know about ADR, but we're too afraid to ask, and human skills. So what they're really talking about are empathy, emotional intelligence. They're talking about an ability to get on with somebody, to socialize. And I think that can be learned at a very young age. And if it's left to when you're in your 20s or 30s or 50s, you're in very serious trouble because you've stopped your learning. I've just come from teaching a course for 5 specialists at my old firm here in Amsterdam. And I'm teaching something which is very specific to negotiation, which is performance management of people who aren't doing very well. And you don't have to be a lawyer to be not very good at that. So people don't like to confront difficult situations. So this is about how to performance manage somebody who's not doing very well. And people love to give good news, but they don't like to give bad news, and how to do that well. And that is an increasingly, as you become more senior in a law firm, that is an increasingly taught subject. But I agree that basic skill is something that a 7-year-old can and should be able to do.
I concur that the sooner the better at kindergarten, but better at certain point in life than never. So I think that we should really look into the soft skills educations, trainings, whatever the age, and try to improve. And I do concur with you that there is a great deal of innate abilities, but we can still polish them, build up on them. And if we don't have the training, we could hardly rank top in these skills, my opinion.
Totally agree, and maybe Ayman, if you have something to add, because I wanted
Yeah,
to say
I
something
just would like to
Dima.
support Super Paul idea.
Paul, I mean, you wouldn't dare do something
I remember
else.
in the graduation ceremony speech, the law school dean said, "We are not here to make you a good lawyer, but we are here to prepare you to be a great lawyer." So you cannot put everything in the school. That's gonna make you everything. No, you have to work on yourself. You have to find your weakness and strength points and work on it. So as you said, yes, I agree with you completely. The schools doesn't make you everything. You just prepare you, and you have to work on yourself.
That's totally right, and maybe before we hear Joseph, until you get the mic, supporting what Liat actually said, that is the ultimate solution, because when you bring those things into light in early ages, it can even determine those children about their future career path. Maybe that 7-year-old who was thinking, yeah, I want to become an astronaut, will become a baker, but become the greatest baker in town, you know? That is about, I mean, my father has also said, and I think it's a very also generally accepted rule that say, just be the best at what you do. You can be a shoe shining boy, you can be a restaurant owner, you can be a marketing expert, a mediator, a negotiation lawyer, and so, but if you're the best, then you're already recognized and appreciated, and you have that credibility, you know. That's why a lot of people, I mean, especially in some societies, I mean, I have Middle Eastern roots, but I think it's the same in the States, in these two areas of the world, especially, not mostly in Europe, that kids are pushed towards specific career path, regardless of their own interest, their passion, their talents, as you said, like they're born with it. Maybe that person is born to be a great guitar player, but you find him, I don't know, driving a bus. And that was not actually what he wanted to be, but what he was pushed to do. And these are fundamental issues, of course, but now we cannot suddenly change the whole, you know, cycle of the world. But something that I also always learned from Gandhi was be the change you want to see in the world. Start with yourself, and then expand it to your close little circle of influence, and then expand it, and maybe that is maybe something that has been always the, let's say, my calling to become also a speaker, to share the knowledge and the experience that I have with a larger group of people, and not just having like one-to-one clients or only improving for myself. So I think if we work on those things, each one of us taking a part of it, and then we become like these groups, and we meet in this kind of conferences, and then we team up with people in different areas, then that collective influence can have a much, much higher impact, I think. Joseph.
Well, I think you've covered all the points I wanted to talk about.
First time now, Nikita, want to participate in the session. I told you this is going to be a cool one. You have to speak. I'm sorry. Go, Joseph. No, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
she's
yeah.
come.
So basically, absolutely, I agree. It's amazing that we're participating in this last final amazing session. And I studied law. My father is a lawyer. The majority of our small family are in doing law and business and other stuff, of course. I had an artistic side, however, it was suppressed by the family. I can say that, disclose it in front of them. So now, with mediation and ADR, I think it's amazing because you can do legal work, of course, you having the legal background, because, for example, when I did a small campaign, the majority of the questions, for 15 minutes for free, were a waste of my time. But however, I was happy to give advice. As a mediator, you don't give advice, but you know, at that time, I was giving advice on different areas of the law that you study and you practice, that I've practiced and studied, etc., etc. Some of them were asking me, can you mediate in criminal law? Can you mediate in home office kind of immigration law? No, etc., etc. So yeah, it's never too late to learn. Though this is an amazing quote. You will, I'm not gonna say it. Completely confidential. You will say it. But as kids, and I've got 2 kids as well, a girl and a boy, one in netball, one in football. They are, I believe, closer to the source. They know things. They've learned it somehow, somewhere in kindergarten maybe. But it's also, like, as mentioned, know yourself and you know the whole world. So starting with yourself, and then of course learning curves and making mistakes. Without making mistakes, there's no point. The more mistakes, the better how you transform them and inject certainty and transform everything negative. Try to transform negativity into positivity. Thank you.
Thank you too.
One takeaway from my side here. Everyone needs to take home. The title of the book is All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten by Robert Fulghum, 25th year edition. That is what you all need for life, and that's the luggage you take with you. All I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. If you take that with you from this conference, it's worth attending the conference and paying for it.
That is good. I mean, that's so true as well. Yeah, really, shukran. I mean, he was telling everyone yesterday, shukran, also the Indians said, Paul, it doesn't apply to every language. But he succeeded. It's a good connection point, right? I thought in the past, cheers is always the connection word. Don't tell me you're leaving. Come on.
Sorry to interrupt. I do have to leave. I've got a plane to catch.
Oh.
I just wanted to say, on behalf of Exterio as a sponsor, thanks so much to you for all coming. The panels have been absolutely fantastic. I know I've listened to most of them from outside, but they've been really, really good content. Couldn't be happier with meeting all of you. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I wanted to say one thing, and then I promise I'll shut up. I know I talk too much.
That's why I'm here. That's why I told everybody to come close.
I read a study recently. If you want, I can search for it and send it to you. It says that successful business people, they have 2 qualities. In order to be successful, you don't need any IQ. It has nothing to do with your education, your academic degrees, your IQ, nothing. You need 2 qualities. One is self-confidence in yourself, a type of courage to go out there and do things. And the other one is the social quality of making people believe you, trust you, being social with people. If you have these 2, it's inside and outside, then you can be successful. Everything else you can learn, get education, IQ. So I think these are the 2 things we need to teach our children and the next generation.
I think that is spot on. There are 2 big studies that have been done, one in England, one in America. One is by a bloke called Randall Kisser, K-I-S-E-R, and he looked at top-performing lawyers versus technically competent lawyers. 1,500 lawyers were looked at, and what were the distinguishing features? Extraordinarily, the 2 areas that were most focused on were self-confidence and courage, preparedness to give bad news, that sort of skill, and then this social skill, putting at ease skill. So both that study and a study in 2020, that was 2017, 2020 by Kim Tasso in England, looked at the top performing lawyers and what distinguished them from the average lawyer, and those skill sets of whether it's innate or it's taught, because I definitely believe and have seen the impact of developing people's skill set over time and helping them. You know, some people are born with those skills. You know, if you're Richard Branson in England, or you're, Barack Obama, you've got no problems. But if you're somebody else, then, quite often you will need those developed. So the other one that I would have sort of put down, and that comes up in both those sort of studies, is business development. So it's the one in law firm land that gets the most sort of conversation. So your relationship management skills, your new client development skills, your networking skills, your ability to process things. So there are two skill sets that I would advertise to you. One, it's run by Huthwaite in America. It's called spin selling, S-P-I-N. They're both questioning techniques. So anyone who's done NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it's the same sort of idea. You ask a set of questions, you get feedback. It's consultative selling, and it's very big in the professions in America and now in Britain. And you will have courses which will include those sorts of skill sets. And if I was saying to young lawyers, what should I do? It's to say, make sure that you've got some sort of coursework, some sort of training and development in those behavioral skills.
Okay, so I'm also acquainted with this research of Kim Tasso, and I do concur with you that indeed emotional intelligence helps us rank high as lawyers. It could be taught, it can be mastered to a certain extent. And I just wanted to share some observations as a mediator, observing lawyers in mediations. I have observed mediations in the UK. I'm also mediating in Bulgaria. And I see how different and how immense is the impact of the well-prepared, emotionally intelligent lawyer in mediation, and how to say, the narrow-minded litigator would really spoil the discourse of the mediation. So I really think that we should consider this and try to develop it more and more, and not underestimate ADR and soft skills in general.
Talking about actually what Hamish and also you just said, focusing on also preparation and knowing your stuff. I have developed actually a kind of like 5C methods that the first starts with competency, because that gives you a lot of ability also to express yourself. Of course, then goes hand in hand or coupled by other skills, how you then present yourself, etc. That's then another skill that we also tap on. But competency, the moment you know what you're talking about, you know your stuff, what you will gain is also courage. Because if you talk about something that you master, or at least you're really good at, then you have no fear in expressing yourself. And that gives you a high level of confidence so that you can step up and speak up and present yourself and also stick to what you're saying, because you know what you're talking about and why you're saying it. And I think it's extremely relevant, no matter, both for litigators and for mediators and negotiators and arbitrators, etc., to have that level of confidence that comes from courage and competency. You know your stuff, you have the courage, you talk to people, you present yourself, and then you have the confidence to really nail it. And of course, a high level of charisma is always required for lawyers. The same with doctors, same with, these areas that I said there, your bus driver doesn't need a high level of charisma. He takes you from A to B, and if he has a little of charisma, it's even better. Then you may always go with that bus because you know that guy has a good energy. But in the legal industry, it's about like you decide about the outcome of a life chapter of a client. It can be custody of a child. It can be a criminal case. It can be a business deal that we may talk about, like larger numbers. After charisma, what you still need to keep up so that this will also continuously is like your practice is consistency and commitment. So these are the 5 and the 6 C's. Competency, courage, confidence, charisma, and practicing them in a consistent, committed manner. Because once you step down or once you know, then people, if you're not a committed and consistent personality as a lawyer, people won't trust you. And our business is a trust-based business. Number 1 is the trust, and then comes everything afterwards. So just added some things also to.
Thank
to
you,
my
Owen. I just
fellow
wanted to mention that.
panelists.
Yeah, sorry.
Shall we
yeah.
give Ayman one comment and then you? Wait.
I had one question. Yeah. Yes. So I'm not going to school anymore, and I'm not planning on going to law school.
We know your plan. They're good.
I was wondering, like, my question has already partly been answered. So, like, you can read the books that you recommended, and you can maybe take courses. But I feel like that's very much just theory. Are there, like, practical ways to actually, like, practice the influence?
Nikita, actually the right way of teaching, and I'm sure Hamish can, and also Dima can confirm, and maybe any other practitioner in the room, that the modern way of teaching and coaching and mentoring and educating people is 100% hand in hand with practice. I mean, I was coached by people who were holding me accountable to take action and to implement what they have been teaching me, because anything else doesn't work. Also the coaches, the trainers, I mean, all of us were also helping and training and coaching people. We are like the GPS of that person, maybe just helping him or her navigate the skills and the abilities and the capacities. But if you don't push that gas, it doesn't matter if you have the fastest car in the world or a bike, you just don't move forward. So the practice is a must.
So you'd recommend getting a coach?
Always. Even the, I don't know, the top people in the world, they have another coach. My coach has a coach, and his coach is a 95-year-old, another coach, and he has another coach. So that it's actually the way to improve. And being a lifetime student is probably a little bit challenging for lawyers, because we are all lawyers, so we are allowed to criticize each other sometimes. We were trained with ego and arrogance, unfortunately. That's why I'm saying it a bit quiet, but it's being recorded. But that is how we have felt about this profession. Lawyers know it all, you know, the confident people. They don't need to learn anything else. I'm definitely not talking about everyone, but the majority, also people, most of people, non-lawyers, they don't like lawyers or doctors. They think they are the less coachable or learnable people, learn resistant. That's a sad reality. But I think this is on us to start this change and start from ourselves, getting our own trainers, getting our own educators, taking our own courses. And then once we feel like, okay, there's a certain level that it's now our obligation to give it away to others, then we do. And again, we learn more. And then again, we teach more. Hamish.
I would have said mentoring and coaching. So that's difficult. You know, you need to find somebody who is prepared to do that. This outfit that I talked about, I think it's Stanford, Delta, they have a thing called DLEX, That is a huge online resourcing thing, and they put a lot of time and effort into e-learning modules in this whole area of whatever you want to call it, but the sort of core skills.
Sales, kind of?
Well, okay, the sort of O-shaped and T-shaped lawyer, they say you shouldn't call it soft skills because it sounds easier. They say you should call it core skills, professional competencies. Or some of it is selling skills, some of it is mediation and ADR, negotiation skill, all sorts of different things. But it's somewhere in that space of professional skills, core skills of a lawyer. So it's still the most commonly used phrase, soft skills. And Delta's course is built around different soft skill modules, as is O-shaped lawyer and the T-shaped lawyer. So I would look at some of the online services. If you go and work for a law firm, they use the 70-20-10 rule. So British law firms, 70% is on the job. I'm going to sit with my very specialist mediator and she will teach me how to be a great mediator. 20% is e-learning, the new nirvana, webinars, etc. You don't need to, stay at home, watch the webinar. You can sit in your pajamas, you don't need to worry about it. 10% is come to work and be coached and be taught by a person in this specialist area. So only 10% is personal intervention and coaching. So there's lots of other places you can find some of this stuff. And I've given a couple of ideas there.
Good. Thank you.
Actually, what we do quite a lot is do simulations at our trainings for mediators. I also coach students as negotiators, so it also helps. It's not like real life, of course, but it helps like you're in different situations and you put into practice what you're taught. This is what most mediation trainings are about. Good. So you might consider such a course.
The other thing, in England, people get very excited about, you're a young person, you go and work for a pro bono organisation, a charity, consumer rights organisation, and they take people who are non-lawyers and alongside other lawyers will give you a legal training and development about what you need to do. And there's nothing harder, because I've done it 30 years ago, is working on housing and immigration problems for people with no money, no one respects them. It's a very, very difficult thing, and you get very personally involved. But nothing will prepare you for emotional intelligence and empathy skills and really understanding how important your assistance is to them than doing that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for asking that question. It was really important, and it has nothing to do with each and every one of our professions and focuses, because putting things into practice, that is the secret. I mean, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you do not implement them, that is how we always call it also leading by example. If you do not practice what you preach, then you should stop also talking about it and even also bragging about it or so. Mm-hmm. Do what you're talking about yourself, and that is exactly, I think, we can see it also in parents, as Hamish was talking about NLPs. I mean, one of the let's say, bold examples when they're doing NLPs also for parents is that kids, they are the smartest, let's say, psychologists, and they understand everything because their brain is still very clean and it's not filled in with all the BS from the parents and schools and society and politicians and religious leaders, etc. So they are very open and clean for absorbing information and knowledge. And the great thing that a lot of parents, normally they do not know, and they put a lot of effort and they waste a lot of energy in, is to advise and to teach their kids what to do. But actually, the most simple method of raising good kids is leading them by example. Kids follow your example, not your advice. They turn out to be actually what they have seen in you and not what you have tried to tell them, because whatever you tell them, normally they do the other way around. Mm-hmm. Most of the kids, especially the smart ones, because they think, they have no idea, I know it better. So it's a waste of energy, and it's the same also in our practice. When, for example, if we come to a certain level of professionalism and we want to help students or mentor them or coach them throughout the way, etc., the best thing is when they follow our examples, and not when we try to tell them something that we are not practicing ourselves and just being that academic or so, with all due respect for academic people as well. I mean, I come myself from an academic family, and I spent almost 15 years of my life in academic career. But at the end of the day, I think not putting those things into practice is just a waste of time and waste of life. So maybe with 3 words with these areas: knowledge, network, mentor. Have the capacity, the competency, get the network, strategically networking, not wasting energy and resources, and get a mentor. Get somebody who is a few steps ahead of you. Should not be Bill Gates. Should be someone who's just a few steps ahead of you, because that's the best way of getting a coach and a mentor. Because Bill Gates will not understand you, and you won't. His advices would be too crazy for you.
Do you have tips on networking, like strategic networking?
Yeah. I will share a few things. But maybe let us hear Ayman first, and then...
So I just would like to go back to your factors of succeed that you said, courage and confidence. You already said it, but I would like to focus on it. You don't have to be also overconfident. As you said, you will be arrogant and everybody doesn't like you. So yes, I saw many people doesn't like lawyer, doesn't like legal. They said they make everything difficult. They didn't find the solution for us. So my suggestion, I know everybody knows that, is you have to be a friend of the people and you have to align with, beside the law, you have to know what is the business. So you can find your company and find your society.
That is actually an awesome point, and we can just have a discussion also in the panel. You just pointed on something that also she asked, how to network, how to build relationship, how to understand people, and how what Dima also mentioned about emotional intelligence, and also Hamish said about the human, skills, not only the heart and also the brain. It's the human thing. We're, as I said also yesterday, we're social animals at the end of the day when we're working with clients, living with friends, sharing, space with partners and kids. At the end, we want to be with a bunch of people. So nobody will find ultimate happiness on a lonely island. Maybe they need to just go to detox a little bit, but then they still seek for connection and community, and that makes people strong. And I always tell actually people, especially in the Western countries, I say, learn relationship building from the Middle Easterns, because that's an area that, the negotiation, the bazaar, the biggest settlements historically. Not because I have the roots. Yeah, for example, in the past times, like before a war was taking place or so, those two leaders were meeting for playing chess with each other and having a tea, and then the things were settled in those tents. We're talking about real old times. And we're not saying that these people are also perfect, because we have a bunch of issues also there, as everybody knows. So it's good to also confess that things are also wrong. But relationship building, they're good at it. Negotiating, that's the old times of bazaar and everything. They're coming from those areas. So just getting to that settlement and that handshake, I think that is something that we can learn from them. So I think Leah, she has also Middle Eastern background, and also she comes from there. So maybe some people, or maybe Joseph, they can also confirm a little bit, or maybe yourself, that relationship building is number one. And then how to maintain those relationships? Of course, it comes down to those competency, confidence, charisma, consistency, and commitment to then keep them. A lot of people, a lot of also lawyers, they get good clients that they get knocked on the door by, a professional athlete or a millionaire or an investor, but they don't know how to keep it. And after a year, you see the client is working with someone else, although you could have done the whole thing, or maybe you could have referred him. You could have made the referral. We cannot be an expert in everything, because then the word expert will become obsolete, But I always say when people are come to me, I say, I either consult you or I connect you. That's it. You don't go with empty hands from my door or from my office. If I am in the area of that competency and confidence, I will do it for you. And if not, I will connect you to the right person so that you don't regret having knocked on my door. Relationship building, number one.
That's why they said the best ADR in Middle East to know someone.
Yes.
As you mentioned,
it was
the idea.
so simple that it was almost ridiculous, right? But it's the reality.
The relationship building is quite important in mediation, and in general, when it comes to the functioning of our law practice, like referral and relationship building with the client is of paramount importance. So I do concur with you that providing solutions to the clients is what we should do, and we shouldn't just file a lawsuit just for the sake of doing it. We should examine the case pretty well prior to doing it, and just realize whether, in the case of enforcement, the company debtor will have the assets, etc. And I just think that in general, this long-term relationship should be seen, and we shouldn't be like milking the cow, like seeing the client as a cow to be milked. And there is this story that a lawyer made a living for 20 years out of one case, and then his son or daughter, I forgot the gender, just finished the case within a couple of days, and it spoiled the whole budget of the law firm. But I think that if we look over the long run, relationship building is what we should really consider. And happy client is a referring client and also a returning client. So consider that, please.
Yeah, Hamish, if you want to add something.
Just a tiny thing is most law firms do put a lot of time and effort into having the client come and talk to you about their business and how it operates and what they should do. And law firms as well run courses on reading business accounts, understanding what the business problems are, focusing in that area. But business and commercial skills is definitely not taught at law school / afterwards or in any other capacity, because most students that I see at larger law firms really have no business skills. And unless they have had the good fortune of working in a family business, then they won't have done it. In-house counsel have generally will move between jobs in in-house counsel roles, and that is the one skill set, this O-shaped lawyer, that's the one skill set that they prize the most, commerciality.
Great point, actually, and maybe bouncing back to the relevance of relationship and networking also, as Nikita was pointing that out. Our businesses, especially, I mean, I'm not going to repeat again that medical and financial are the same, but ours, and hairdressers as well, extremely trust business. You know, and trust comes from that building those relationships and leaving a good impression and a good result. Because trust doesn't come just by the way you're educated and by how cool you look or by how cool you present yourself. Trust comes from results. What other people, that's why we have a very simple definition of brand. We say brand, your brand is what people tell about you when you're not in the room. Those other clients' testimonials, those other people who have been like consulted by yourself and they saw results, what they say about you, if you come out of that dentist and then you start recommending to your friends, that is your credibility, and that builds trust. The moment you refer, it means you have already trust and confidence in that person, or in that firm, or in that company, or whatever. So it's really like, it's a business and also personal principle for every type of profession, I believe, not only for lawyers, but for us, especially because people trust us with, you know, with their crimes, with their wrongdoings, with their, I don't know, demolishing and ruining other parties. They trust us and they come and tell us those. And at the end of the day, no matter as a litigator, mediator, arbitrator, or just consultant or in-house or paralegal, whatever, we are dealing with people's secrets. And partly they are like super dirty secrets. So if there is no trust component, how should those people come to us or be referred to us? One thing that I just maybe close this sentence with is, I always say trust brings credibility, and trust comes from results and what you have proven already. You can say, I have solid, proven results. Talk to my clients. Go check my LinkedIn testimonials, for example. Go talk to the people that I have worked with previously. Or sometimes I even say, don't trust me, then try me. If somebody really doesn't know me, I say, okay, try me, and then we will see it, you know. Test me out, don't trust me, try me. And that comes across as people also very funny, and sometimes they see, okay, that's cool. She accepts, or she admitted that I may not have any trust in her, but she gives me the opportunity to try her, like trying a new set of dress to see, okay, I'm feeling well and I feel comfortable in that shirt or in that dress, and then I'm gonna buy it. Try it and then spend the money, and then trust and then go back. So that trust and the results, that builds credibility. Credibility builds connections and clients take care of your cash. So I always say credibility, clients, cash. And if you take care about your clients will take care about your bank account. It's a never-ending circle. And that comes back always, you know.
I do concur with you, and I think that trust is paramount in our business as well as in the doctor's business, etc. And I was just thinking of the marketing. Usually, really, I think that these personal relationships are what matters in our business, and having trust in each other. It's not, I don't think that investing in Google Ads or whatever you do to boost your site is that important, because it's our business is referral-based, connection-based, and I'm really happy that COVID ended up and we finally can meet up and build trust and establish relationships in real life.
I want to say something.
Please.
When I teach new lawyers, they ask me, how do you bring in work?
Yeah. How can a law firm run
Where
without
do you
cash?
publish your services? I don't publish anywhere. It's all about trust and your connections. And one more thing about referrals, people got to be careful with that. Because once you refer your client to someone else, your reputation is on the line just like his. So you got to refer it to someone you know is good. Because if he's not going to be happy with his new lawyer, he's going to remember who referred him to him. So referrals are great, but you got to be careful with them. When I get referrals, I'm extremely careful with that client, because I know that the person that referred him to me, his reputation is on the line just like mine.
There is also one indemnification possibility for that one that I always use, and I always make this joke at the end of the, let's say, referral conversation, and I said, you know what, just like I would recommend you to date someone or so, the rest of the responsibilities with yourself. Either you marry or you don't date him anymore. It's the same. So it's a recommendation. Yes, I have the trust and confidence in that person, but there's always a certain level of risk, and I would like you to do your own research. You know, I always say, I serve you with the information and the result and the trust that I have, but do your due diligence. It's always, I mean, the principle that I, not only to the clients or the people who are just knocking on my door for some tips or referrals, but to anyone, to also like students, to colleagues, fellow lawyers. I always say, get the information from somewhere. It's okay to have a certain level of trust, you know, trust and verify, trust and verify, not but. So do your own due diligence. Due diligence is everything. And we can never know enough. At the end of the day, there's a certain level of risk, even for the highest intelligence service. That's why they cannot even accomplish all of their missions risk-free, you know. So there's even for them, you know. Risks are everywhere, and I just will add afterwards, before we close with a final conversation, a few tips about strategic networking as well.
My tiny bit on, just as a reminder really, is I teach on a lot of leadership skills training for lawyers. So as you get more senior, you're expected to be a leader. And the two things that are focused on are the ability of a person to inspire confidence and influence outcomes. Those two things. You don't need to have the charisma and personality of a showman in order to do those things. You do need to be able to engage with a customer and an employee, a fellow, a class, you know, a colleague. So, yeah, influencing outcomes, inspiring confidence.
That was awesome. I mean, that's not enough, of course. Yeah, maybe there are some charismatic people who are not the influential people, but the manipulative people. I mean, the most, I think, bold example that I can give is the person who brought the Black Islamic Revolution to our country, that Khomeini guy, who was a highly influential and charismatic person. He's still being mentioned and referred to in a lot of like sociology and also history books of how to be a charismatic leader. And he made it. He bring millions of people to the streets. Those days we didn't have even internet, and I was not there, but I hear it from my like older siblings and from my parents. And it was another country. So a lot of people say maybe a leader, it should be only in your country. And he was sitting somewhere in Neufchâtel in France. And they were like sending just cassettes, recorded, and radios and just papers. And there was no Twitter or so. So charisma can have also those aspects as well. And you can be also a manipulative leader, not always so I think for I also give a book recommendation as well. The Art of Persuasion, Dr. Cialdini, Robert Cialdini. It's very academically written, but you will be wiser afterwards. And he is always focusing on how to get the yes from others and get that compliance, you know, so that they comply with your requests or with your wishes or with your purposes, but in an influential way and not in a manipulative way. And that's so beautiful how he really distinguishes those thin lines before influence and manipulation. You know, most of politicians, unfortunately, in the world, that's why our world is functioning like this, most of the politicians are high-level people. They're using or abusing that power of, instead of influencing, with manipulation. And the difference between influence and manipulation is influencing, you normally influence someone for their own good. And that is what lawyers need to learn, because at the end, we are committed to protect the interests of our clients. That is influence, so that you influence them towards a productive decision or a proper solution. At least, of course, these are also relatives. You can never have an absolute definition of what is proper and what is good. But the manipulative type of leadership is when you lead people or you influence for your good, for your purpose. That is, unfortunately, the manner how the world politicians are doing. That's manipulation. We had a very interesting but very sad discussion also during lunch with our two ladies from Ukraine and also our Swedish new friends. And, you know, we were like sitting at one table and we were people from three different parts of the world. And at the end, we were speaking the same language of how problems of the world, and actually now then we were talking about two current major problems of the world, the war in Ukraine and the crisis, brutal crisis in Iran. At the end, we were coming to that agreement that sometimes even doing nothing is better than doing something, you know? Because Christopher was telling me, now as a born Iranian, what would you expect from the international community? I said, do not support them. Do not do. We just expect them now in action. Action is not always a strategy. Sometimes, as Bruce Lee also said, sometimes the best fight strategy is not to fight. You know, sometimes you just need to do, oh, that's not for me, that's not my fight. If I'm a wise fighter, a warrior, I choose my fight. I choose my battle counterpart. I choose my battlefield. And that strategic thinking is another soft skill that goes maybe weeks of trainings, but let us hear something from Joseph, and then we can slowly close it here. Although it's very sad for me to close this session. We are getting really now to the heart of it. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Maghrebi,
Sorry
tell us about your philosophical wisdom.
What philosophical?
No,
I
I'm
wish,
just
well,
kidding.
politicians, I think, should
An
be...
artistic wisdom.
I think politicians should be more philosophers, not to philosophize, but to be real philosophers, because the real philosopher can say little and still be a real philosopher.
Philosophy is the wisdom of life, yeah.
So unfortunately,
That's the best
we're going to
soft
close
skill,
this session amazingly. Hopefully, you will mediate between countries, between amazing corporations, and you'll succeed by getting them to sign and reach a binding settlement. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. It's Mazal Tov. Because actually, it's a sign. It's a sign that we shouldn't continue.
Yeah, it is sometimes how life gives you lemon and you
because
make
the
you
DJ
drink tequila
is
instead
not,
of saying it's sour.
So we talk so much about like the ego, and that's the hardest thing, because some people really do believe that it's better to be a leader who is feared than to be loved, said by, I think, Machiavelli, etc. But maybe sometimes it's true in some certain places, because people will not respect you if you don't show authority and you don't show power. But people tend to forget sometimes that power is not only money, which is a means to an end. It's very important to talk about cash, but power could be knowledge, the power of ideas. And again, we talked about gaining knowledge is really amazing when you do the percentage of the learning, etc. However, the best is when you learn it from mentors and teachers, teacher from teacher from teacher from teacher, like many people in the past did that.
Yeah.
All the way to
historic teachers.
And
Yeah, nowadays, actually, I think one of the biggest crises in the world is that symptom of no, I know it all, you know? I think the moment you come to that level that you think you don't need to learn something anymore, that's your story is over. So I think, that, as you just mentioned also, and we said also repeatedly, it's always that continuous chain of learning. You never, I mean, it's been said a couple of thousand years ago also, Aristotle. You know that you don't know nothing. At that moment, when you come to that level, then you're a lifetime learner. And when you feel prepared for that, as Rumi said, once the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You need to be also ready to accept and to learn. And unfortunately, that's been a chronic disease in the legal industry, the know-it-all symptom and the arrogance. And it is sad, but unfortunately, it is a disease in our industry. And that is why also we, in the outside of our industry, I mean, amongst each other, we're cool, we're learning from each other, we're discussing, we're adding value. But from outside, they don't know us like that. They normally look at us as arrogant, complex, and expensive. And one thing that I think helps lawyers a great deal to build relationships and trust and credibility is simplicity. I mean, follow just the advice of Einstein. Always try to explain complicated things so that a 6-year-old child understands you. Normally, lawyers, they think if they write those complex requests or demands or contracts, they may seem very smart. But the main sign of smartness is if you just can simplify them. And that's something that I've been teaching now to fellow lawyers or younger ones or even older ones who want to grow still and build even more better relationships and convert more clients, is to simplify. Plain legal language. It's no longer in to be complex. There was a time that it was very in. People were thinking you're very smart. But now you're arrogant if you people don't understand it. And unfortunately, the legal language as such in the law school, it's a complex language. And if you know your language, I mean, it's your mother tongue, but you go to law school, it is a different level of language. It's just different. You don't even understand, as a non-lawyer, you wouldn't understand a legal letter even in your mother tongue. Why should it be? That is only creating a crack between the potential clients and the lawyer. Once they understand you, they approach you and they feel comfortable with you. When the comfort comes also the confidence, and also then you can practice your charisma. And maybe adding one sentence to what Joseph very nicely said about knowledge. Immanuel Kant is my number one beloved philosopher, and he was the guy who said knowledge is power. But with all respect, I sometimes challenge him and say knowledge as such is not power. Implemented knowledge and shared knowledge, that is power. That is the real power. What would my knowledge be a power if I do not share it with you and I empower other people? I empower you, that empowers me. I empowers my circle, that lifts me higher. Because then I see what kind of people I'm connected to. And that's the circle of influence and the circle of power. So practice, practice, practice. This was Nikita's question as well.
I have one more thing to ask, if that's all right?
Yeah.
All right.
It's the first time that our that's why
We're actually working here, so.
in the front row.
Yeah, so you guys taught us that trust is big. And when trust is not at play, try me. And influencing outcomes, inspire confidence, the art of persuasion, choose your fights. Do any of you have one more thing that you would add to that list? And maybe all of you have.
Maybe not. Yeah, well, if each one of you. I think we will have anyway closing words just to nail at the end. I think one thing that you may add to your list, and I'm very proud of you actually. I told her yesterday. I said you're never an 18-year-old girl. She's so mature and so wise. If you guys do not know Marl yet, just say hi and yeah, really. I mean, that is what we need to all accept, that it's not the age and the gray hairs and the social status or something. We all can learn. I mean, I yesterday learned a few things from her, and she could be my daughter. But this is something that, yeah, don't look at me like that. It was a powerful look. So what? 5. But yeah, no, but just, I mean, a little humor is always, that was also from Einstein, and humor is a sign of confidence as well. The moment you can laugh about something and about yourself, then it shows you're comfortable with who you are, with all your flaws and all your perfection and imperfection. One thing that I could actually add to this for you now, just in between, as we were talking about power and knowledge and leadership, etc., be comfortable in the state of power. Some people, especially as I started living in Switzerland and as I was in Scandinavia, these two sides of the world, they feel very uncomfortable with being powerful. That's a kind of maybe over-saturated way of humbleness, so that if you grow, then they cut you fit to be like everybody else. And I'm sure you can confirm that. Because, and it's a positive thing as such, but overdoing it can have a very negative impact, because then you feel like you don't want to grow because you want to be like everyone else. And you grow, then you hide it. And then you don't demonstrate that level of power. It's okay, I feel powerful and I feel comfortable demonstrating that power and empowering others. That is very important. I always say the real power is contagious. And when you're really confident, you have no fear. You're not afraid of making her and him also powerful. Because say, I have been influencing them and I have been giving them the same that I learned myself, so that they grow. If they grow, it's always, I mean, the world is the butterfly effect. It doesn't get lost. This is also scientifically proven. Energy doesn't get lost. Feel comfortable in the state of power, but don't mix it up with arrogance and ego, and because there's a very thin line between that level of power, constructive power, empowering power, and that level of, that's unfortunately given. Yeah, the art of, that is actually another soft skill. The art of giving, be feeling comfortable with power and giving away that power, because nothing will. And also feel comfortable receiving, A lot of people, they think because giving is good, then, the whole energy container get exhausted. And as Lisa Nichols, one of my awesome coaches, I mean, she's the female Anthony Robbins, that was a problem of myself. We Middle Eastern women especially, we are the giver, nurturers, the martyrs, the mother kill herself for the child, she starves for the child. But she said, first, fill in your own cup and then give from the saucer. Whatever is the overflow, and then you will never be empty.
There are two
then
sides
you can
to the
still
coin.
give. And also one last maybe point on that.
You said
Giving
Lisa
the-
Nichols? Who?
Lisa Nichols. And one other thing that she also said, and I think it's now generally known and accepted, is we hear it always from the flight attendants before the takeoff. If in the emergency cases, first the oxygen mask on yourself, and then it doesn't matter who that person is beside you, your beloved, whatever, or your kid, or whoever, first yourself. If you do not have air yourself, how are you going to help others? Conscious, yeah, correct. But don't feel sorry or guilty by taking care of yourself first. That is something that in the Eastern countries, unfortunately, also Asian countries, that martyr culture, etc., you always have to put yourself in the front and kill yourself for other people. Oh, stay alive and powerful and serve your people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. I just said in the women is very historically and culturally, unfortunately, as mothers and as givers, that is, naturally proven, unfortunately. But we can work on it. That's also a soft skill. Feel comfortable with receiving and feel comfortable with being powerful.
I did this myself from a personal experience. I was neglecting myself, kind of buying presents for others, for nieces, nephews on their birthdays, which revolves around the whole
And you're walking around
zodiac
naked
and the whole
yourself.
12 months of the year, January, February, starting in April, ending in March, etc., etc., until I just thought, I've passed through ups and downs like everybody else. Everybody's got their own battle to fight, and everybody wants to succeed and make it. And I'm still, the beginning of the journey is still a lot more to learn, a lot more to experience. However, enjoying it, and I can say also that happiness is power as well. So is other things that we still don't know what the technology is gonna bring to this new world we're living in, after COVID, etc., etc. And trust is an amazing thing that's really, really so important that we touched on, and we kind of talked about the reputation. Because sometimes you ask someone for a power of attorney, and they were like, well, it's not an irrevocable power of attorney, it's just something so that I can speak on your behalf. And if you don't have a reputation, some people do it. Some people do take power of attorneys and do whatever, this and this and this and that, in this manipulative way or whatever way they use. To simplify it is the best thing, and I'm really enjoying this talk because it's really, we can use terminologies about...
Joseph, it was worth for you to miss your flight, right?
Okay, I did actually. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe Hamish.
Hello? Oh, yeah, here we are. So the answer, the extra answer I would give, because this has veered into the excitements of philosophy, which I think is unbelievable and excellent. There is a very well-known philosopher, Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, and he talks about, he's come into our area, lawyers, a little bit, and he talks about the growth mindset. So this is, do you have a growth mindset? Are you minded to grow as a person? And what comes with that is, because we have talked about soft skills, if the answer is actually no, well, this is going to be, you're not going to go to any of these classes, you're not going to get a coach or a mentor or go and learn, do some e-learning, because you've taken do not have a growth mindset. So growth mindset / positivity, I think, takes you a hell of a long way.
So some final words for myself. I would advocate for this growth mindset as well, and I would advocate for being cautious of our soft skills and being open to developing them all life, as Aline also said, and be open to new things, to new people, build trust, build relationships, and be happy.
And now referring to Mr. Sinek as well, just to maybe close up here, one of his awesome tips for good, complete leadership is also not to be afraid of partnering with people. Collaboration always trumps competition. You don't need to master everything. You cannot run a business alone. You need a strategist, you need an accountant, a tax advisor, a secretary, someone for your admin stuff. Don't try to be at the end of the day, if you try to do everything, at the end of the day, you end up doing nothing. Because the quality will just decrease, and then at the end, you're facing burnout, and your resources are being exhausted, and then you get the disappointment and frustration as well because you're not getting anything in return or you don't see any results. So yeah, just referring also to him, and I'm actually a big fan, he's really awesome. Collaboration collaboration above competition, because that will make actually also a healthy competition. Competition as such is not bad if there's like a collective benefit or result afterwards. And last but not least, especially for lawyers, because you need to be always presenting in front of other people. It could be the least, public speaking is when the number is more than 2, then it's public speaking. That's why Mariel was saying, oh, nobody's here, the room is very small. I said, no problem. If you are a confident speaker or a presenter, you can present to one person, but with the same quality that you do for 1,000 people. And that's even more personal because you're responsible against that one person. Like 10,000 people, half of them might be distracted by something, but the rest might be paying attention. And as lawyers, you must be really influential, powerful presenter and speakers as well. Not only as litigators, but also as negotiators. When you're negotiating a deal on a round table, when you're presenting a new idea, a new solution to your client, you must come across convincing and as a potential powerful leader. Solving other people's problems requires a high level of responsibility and leadership. And as Simon again says, leadership is not about positioning and status and your name, business cards or whatever. It's about hell of a responsibility. As a leader, you have hell of a things to do because you need to be in front and you need to take responsibility. You need to even be responsible for other people's mistake and messing up, you know? And that is something that I think it's not also taught, not only in law school, but also in business school or medical school, never. Take responsibility, be willing to stand in the front, and also accept the mistakes, but do not glorify them. That comes from my, let's say, kickboxing passion and profession, that not every mistake is good. One mistake, you're out, you're dead. So there has been like this doctrine the past couple of years that they're glorifying mistakes and failures. Today, to fail. No, sometimes one failure, you're effed, you're dead. So do not glorify mistakes and failures. Allow yourself to make mistakes and fail sometime, but that modality of failing forward, also quoting Lisa Nichols, okay when you fall, but don't remain at the same place falling. Fail forward at least, you know. Fail forward, but don't get used to failing. It's not a good attitude as well. So that has been from my side and our side, and I think it was a very hard session, this one. We were also close and all together, and we shared, I think everybody did, and everybody contributed, so it was not just our session, it was our session. And I'm very happy that this was, I don't know, scheduled for the last. At the beginning, I was a little upset, but now I'm very happy, and especially that I met Hamish. And then I met Dima. She also said yes to this session on short notice because one of our speakers, Zakari, who was also supposed to be in our NFT session, he canceled due to a COVID issue. But you see, this is also the courage of saying yes sometimes to an opportunity. Now you get new connections and collaborating with one another. We had our coordination within 3 minutes before lunch. So, you know, sometimes if that chemistry works and people have that charisma and that connection, things can just go on autopilot. You know, you don't need to maybe negotiate for 5 hours on how we are delivering that session. And we did it without slides, without anything. Everybody was talking from the heart and from the also backgrounds and experience and expertise. And it was my honor and my pleasure to have served you also throughout the past 3 days. And with this, thank you. And also, it wouldn't have been possible alone. This has made it possible. I think no speaker, no educator is powerful on his or on her own without having good audience and good collaboration partners, because you were all speakers, but in each session we were backing up one another, we were supporting, we were communicating and collaborating and connecting. And let's keep these connections, follow up and follow through. Let's do not forget each other. Who knows when, where we meet again after 9 years. January Dubai is anyway the name of the game, and actually with this we would like to cordially invite all of you to also these 2 girls. They almost committed yesterday. She is in, but she needs a little bit more work. So, but one thing, I'm still proud of you again today. I think she was the only one who was taking seriously notes. That's so important. Sometimes, okay, you do, sorry. She was looking at me like, hello? No, I think this is being a lifetime student, and it has nothing to do with age and status and gender. So, okay, she has more notes. I'm sorry. Hamish, thank you so much. It was a pleasure sharing space and value with you. I learned a lot from you, and I hope everybody else as well. Dima, it was awesome. What a great surprise, and what a pleasure to meet you after 9 years. Paris, Amsterdam, and hopefully Dubai, next station. And Ayman, Dubai, you come in your Arabian clothes, right? You guys, you know. I mean, come on, they have such cool symbolic dressings, and I don't care about Tommy Hilfiger when you have Saudi dresses. Come on. Okay, finished. That's commitment. That was the Middle Eastern style. Command and finish. Okay, everybody else, really, really, it was awesome. If we have not met in person or spoken, maybe we can just still catch up a few minutes for a coffee and for a closing talk also by Azam. He's been doing also great deal of work in the background. Now the rest of the team had to cancel for visa issues, but he's been doing also the technical stuff himself and administration stuff himself, although that was not his own, let's say, responsibility and duty initially. And that is also the power of connection and collaboration. I am actually also like you, speakers and lawyers by profession, but also the member of advisory board. And this time, as I saw the team is canceled, then I had to jump in, you know. Sometimes you need to like put in some energy and some potential somewhere, and then you will get the value from somewhere else as well. Azam, it's yours now. Thank you guys so much. Let's give a round of applause for the soft skills for lawyers. We never know enough time to learn, and you can definitely reach out to him. He's awesome in what he does. Dima is great. I'm great as well. So we would be also happy to help you and each and every one of you if you need to do, like, I don't know, training resources or even work with us as trainers, etc. Or maybe we can team up to do some also trainings exclusively for this network as well. I think that's how we can help each other grow and add even more value. And don't forget to follow up and follow through. Most of us have each other on LinkedIn, but don't forget to drop that one message and leave that little footprint not to be forgotten.